Hey everyone, my name is Sophie. I'm a UX researcher with Perfection, and today I'll be presenting the topic of UX design in China. So, in order to talk about UX design in China, it's important to talk about the cultural factors that shape the users' behaviors and preferences in terms of digital interaction. And we'll see that although Chinese users are evolving towards Western standards of web design and UX principles as we know them, there are some key specificities we need to take into account when designing user experience for the Chinese audience. In this presentation, I will first go over some layout elements such as colors and Chinese characters. Then I will dive into some features that Chinese specifically prefer, and also talk about the current digital landscape and current UX trends. So when we look at Chinese websites, oftentimes they seem very bright, flashy, with bold colors. The reason why Chinese have a cultural preference for these colors is because of their association with luck. Luck is a very important aspect in everyday lives of Chinese because they are very superstitious and they attribute success in their lives and any successful event to luck. They spend quite considerable amount of time picking out numbers and dates that are auspicious, and colors are also part of this. So for example, red and anything that will tend on the red, orange, purple, pink will be associated with abundance and wealth, celebration, and happiness. But yellow is also considered a very lucky color that is reminiscent of empire and royalty, and gold. Green and blue can also be considered lucky colors. So here we have the Tmall website and Ctrip websites layout, which are two very mainstream popular websites in China. And Taobao and JD are also e-commerce's, big e-commerce's websites, and they hold the traditional favorite colors. Some international brands have added some colors to their websites in order to suit those preferences. For example, here Sephora has a black and white scheme overall in their French website version, whereas in the Chinese version, it's a little bit brighter with a little bit more color on it. McDonald's as well, in the Chinese version, they have used the yellow that is already part of their color scheme to really suit the masses' preference. And Amazon, the dark blue menu that we know from Amazon in the Chinese version has gone and traded for a brighter menu with some touches of colors in the layout. The luxury brand Cartier, this is their French website. Their logo is black, and in the Chinese website, their logo is red. And we can't see it here, but they also have some icons and buttons that are red. Another thing about Chinese websites layout is that oftentimes it seems very crowded in terms of content. There is a lot of text, and it's very busy. So this is due to two reasons. First reason is due to the nature of the characters and their lack of stylization. They can't be stylized like Western alphabet languages. There are no caps, no spaces, no italic, and also very limited fonts. That's one thing. The other thing is that Chinese is a high culture, high context language. This means that when someone is speaking Chinese with you, oftentimes you will need to take into account the broader context to fully grasp what they are saying, because the language is full of subtleties and nuances. So for example, a character is only means something in association with other characters, and then the sentence itself oftentimes will be made clearer with the broader context. So quantity is always seen as useful generally by Chinese people. When you do apply a minimalist design, it's important to consider who is your demographic and who is your target. And also font size should never be less than 12 points for readability, even on mobile apps and websites. These are a few examples of the Chinese layout. News website Sohu, you can see the lack of stylization and hierarchy in their text, and here as well, the Tencent news website. Now moving on to some features, I would like to talk about search bars. So Chinese, instead of using search bars, they prefer browsing as an option to search for categories or products. This is because due to the nature of the character, because it means something totally different depending on its association, it's very hard to perform efficient search functions for algorithm. And also typing is a little bit more painful, and sometimes people don't know the exact characters if they are less literate. So this is the reason why Chinese prefer browsing. So let me give you an example on their website, show you on the Amazon actual website. But actually this is on many websites. They will have sub-menus when you hover over categories that will pop out like this. And that is how users prefer to look for items or categories. Next, the phone numbers often will replace email addresses for logins in Chinese websites. So phone numbers are also tied to the national ID card, to a bank account, and is just as important as a social security number. This way, it's easier to authenticate someone. For the elderly and people who are less literate, is really much more user-friendly, as they don't need to remember all the logins and the passwords. Yeah, and secondary logins will oftentimes be social media accounts, such as Taobao, WeChat, QQ, or Weibo. So Chinese really love QR codes, and you will see them scanning things around all day with their phones. This is because, first of all, in China, the preferred payment method in stores is QR codes. So they will scan with their cell phone, and the money will just transfer digitally. And then it's just a convenient way for them to access information on items, now on food products, to get nutritional information. You see them on print ads, you see them to download an app or to add a friend on social media. You see them on as identity badges in hospitals, pretty much anything you can think about. And it started out as a way to avoid typing like a full URL address on browsers, as some people may not know how to type well with the alphabet. And now it just has taken over and became a really daily ingrained habit. The digital landscape in China is a little bit different than the one we know in North America and Europe. So, for example, almost all the population will access internet mostly through their mobile phones. The reason for this is that not every Chinese person had a computer in their homes or even knew how to use a computer before. And then came the smartphone, and everyone had access to a mobile phone, and at the same time through the internet. And Chinese users actually make more purchases with smartphones than they do with computers. So for brands, it's usually better to develop directly a mobile website and adapt it to the computer, or even skip the regular desktop website and only develop a mobile site. And WeChat corporate page are also very important for brands. The key thing to know about China is that they are a collectivist society. And as such, they value their circle and community, family at large. The group experience will always prevail over the individual ones. The decisions are made for the greater good rather than for the individual self. And this translates into the way they will make purchases and take decisions about products. So reviews are extremely important to the Chinese people. They are more trusted than in the West, and they rely a lot on other people's experiences, recommendations. They want to have high degrees of communications to share their own experience. And it's important to not save on customer service, allow direct ways of contacting, chatting with someone or calling someone. This is a little illustration here of a Chinese artist on his take on the way Chinese communicate and the way Europeans, this is Germany, I believe, how we communicate in Europe. Also, as a result of what I just said about group experience and being a collectivist society, many applications nowadays dedicated to sharing reviews and experiences about products have become very, very popular. And it's important to include them as part of your strategy if you want to be successful in business. So for example, Taobao has Ali Wang Wang. It's their own app dedicated to buyers who want to speak with other people who share interest in the same product, to directly talk with them, share their thoughts, contact also sellers, and anything that will be interactive, such as discounts, games, will be very highly popular. Here we can see this screen is from a game that was launched by Taobao also. It was seasonal, but it drives just a lot of sales. Gamification is so popular. So in this game, you could share with other users, play with other users and invite them to the game and win discounts on products. And over 1 week, there were 300 million, users on the game. So it's really, really popular. Now, UX trends, current UX trends since the past 3-4 years is that the overall trend of Chinese websites have really evolved, and they try to apply the minimalist look that we know with more text and with less text, and more images. And this is especially true for the high-tech industry and e-commerce's websites. But because the Chinese users have for long kept this habit of getting a lot of information, a lot of content, they still really love to have a detailed information upfront about the products that they are seeking. And it's important to be able to provide that. So for example, I want to show you the website, the Lenovo website. Here you can see Lenovo, the technology brand. It's a website that is pretty regular in terms of design. It looks like the designs we are accustomed to, but it is a very dense website with a lot of menus, submenus, and if I go into like this is home products, so I want to show you the product page. So here we are on the product page, and if I randomly choose a product, I mean, all of their products are just presented in the same way. So what we can see here is that, well, you have a little video on the product that has like storytelling around it. And then a lot of information is provided on this page regarding the specific product. I will scroll down. So it's a really long page and with a lot of information. So yeah, this is important for the Chinese to have access upfront to information on the product. This is what they're used to. So when applying a minimalist design, you need to provide ways to give that information through either video, sneak peeks of products, brand message, and storytelling. All this is very important. If it's too minimalist with not sufficient information, it will create mistrust from the Chinese users, and it will give the impression that the brand doesn't have much to say or offer. Now we need to take into consideration that in China, the landscape is dominated by super apps. What is a super app? It is an umbrella app that will have many functions inside. Whereas we are used to single apps with a single function. Super app, they have usually a wallet included with a lot of diverse range of functionalities. You can pay for, book some tickets, train tickets or movie tickets. You can hail a cab, order a meal, anything you can think about, you can do on a super app, really just transfer money, banking services. And the reason for this is because in China, there is no Google. And so whereas we will have only two types of app stores, in China, they used to have a lot of different smaller app stores with different small apps. So this really allowed for the bigger players to take over and to become increasingly popular with their super app. And the most famous one is, of course, WeChat. But there are some other big players such as Alibaba, Meituan, or Baidu. And some of them will also have mini programs. They are just like apps. They cannot be called apps due to legal reasons, but they are also lighter than apps. They require no download, no passwords, no advertisement, and they allow the user to jump from app to app with a single entry point. And they can make diverse purchases or services from different brands within that single entry point. So WeChat has like over a billion active users and 1 million third-party mini programs. So it's important, if you want to be successful in your business strategy, to have, of course, a WeChat account. And it's even more important to have that account than having actually a website. And also having a mini program, removing all the barriers to existing ecosystems is essential. And of course, those mini programs can coexist with native traditional app. I guess that's all for me. Thank you for watching this presentation. Feel free to contact me or my colleagues at Perpection if you want help setting up your user studies or have in-depth question about recruitment. We'll be very happy to help you with that. Thanks, bye-bye.